see. Oh, the light is causing a bit of a glare of my glasses. Light is bothering me. I was trying to see if I could put, maybe it's this. Choose a sticker. No. There's something I was playing around last night that I could put a background. Let me see, what's this? Green? Yes. Okay, I am going to move for a second because I prefer, I'm still here in the live and everyone hasn't signed on. That's what I wanted to do, which hopefully by the time of the Vegas investigations, I'll be able to remove it, or we'll figure it out. Okay, 1 second, everyone. Moving, I want to sit where it's a higher vibration energy field. So we are moving, which is better because I prefer here energetically. We are closer to my candles. I'm just moving some things here. It's one of those days, everyone, if you're feeling it. I know I am feeling it, so that's good. I found this last night that actually, and this is, hey, Jupiter went direct today. So that's my background for tonight, Jupiter direct. As of today in Cancer, let's see. It's also better with the lights here. That's right, Jupiter direct. I'm gonna move my jacket. So it was 80 degrees here in New Jersey today. Not complaining, but definitely left me feeling a bit more fatigued. I'm just trying to see between. So now that I can start doing this with backgrounds, I was playing around with this last night. I don't even remember which one I clicked on here to find this. But maybe each live I'll have to anyway do a green screen, which is good. Yes, I do. Sinan, I don't believe I know, actually. Do I believe in God? I don't believe I know because I've had direct experiences. So are you asking me because of your religious upbringing? I did earn a PhD in philosophy and religion. I am a trained scholar in religion, and I was raised Greek Orthodox. Which God? Okay, but where are you tuning in from? Because you have to, that's what's saying. Because if you're talking in the Hindu, there's hundreds of gods, right? But the main source is the Devi. Denmark. Okay, you are, okay. So what time is it in Denmark? It's, I'm on New York, East Coast time zone. Let me just keep with my page. So I was raised, are you saying, you get, oh, it's, okay, it's 12:49. So you're 5 hours ahead of us, which is the same as England. Why is Jupiter in the background? Because Jupiter went direct today, so I put it as my background screen. That's why it's here today. Jupiter went direct today in Cancer, so that's why I picked it as the background screen for tonight. So good question. To say which God, if you're saying, I mean, that's a complex question. Too, I was raised Greek Orthodox, but I know that if you're saying in other cultures, look, if you go with Greek culture, right? Before the advent of Christianity, my ancestors prayed to the Greek gods and goddesses. That's why we have temples all over Greece. I'm an American Greek. I'm going to call you Sinan from Denmark. And I wrote my doctoral dissertation on the psychic priestesses in ancient Greece. And I went to every archaeological site I wrote about. One of my methodologies was archaeology. So if you take here for my culture, right? I'm an American Greek. So before Christianity, my ancestors went to temples and prayed to Zeus, to Aphrodite, let me just get the sound off this here. You know, the list goes on. Apollo, Athena, Poseidon. Yeah, it's, okay, thank you for being insulting. Thanks for the insult, Sawyer. So, does that make you feel better to be mean? Do you feel good being mean-spirited, Sawyer? Hi, James. Good evening. Aftos que tora Sawyer na fas kata malaka katalaveni. Sawyer, good night. You've got a lot of miserable experiences in front of you. So, hi, James. Oh, thank you, Sinan. I appreciate that. Because, you know, it was on another one of my social media that they come on and then they don't like that I give it back. And then they try to hurt me further. So I appreciate you doing that because I never do that. But they do deserve that because that's just a miserable, awful person. So thank you. So we are talking right now. Sinan was asking me if I believe in God. And then he asked, Sinan, I'm not sure if you're male or female. So I'm just going to say, Sinan asked, which God? So I've started this conversation about in Greece, for example, male. Okay, I thought so. So when I said he, I was correct with the gender. Thank you. So I was talking about if you take here that my ancestral country, right? My parents were born and raised in Greece. So before the advent of Christianity, we have so many temples in Greece. We went and we prayed to various gods and goddesses. And I can get really technical with you because I explored this in the dissertation. The term in archaeology is also in ancient Greece, there was a polytheistic monotheism, especially on the island of Crete, which means you pray to many gods, but the center is one. So you have then this, derivative of the main source, which is God, and you have Zeus, and you have Aphrodite, and you have Hermes, and, you have Athena, and you have Artemis. So in archaeology, that was polytheistic monotheism. If you take in the Hindu, they call that main source Devi, Devi, but right, there's Sarasvati, there's Ganesha, there's Lakshmi, there's Kali, but the main source in the Hindu is the Devi. They are all derivatives of the Devi, too. So, it's, if you're asking me that in my direct experiences, God is a light source of energy. If you know the great inventor Nikola Tesla, and he's got the 2 light bulbs, and he's holding them, and there's that white energy. That's God. That is the source of the God energy. God is the white light. It's an energy source. It's electrical. So that is the energy that I pray to. And then these gods and goddesses through time, just how in the Christian, right, religion, they've assigned Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And yes, when people ask me with what I do, or they, somebody says, you need Jesus in my life, I have a fantastic relationship with Jesus Christ. So probably better than they have. So that's real rich when they want to judge. But if you're asking, that's when I pray and I meditate, the God energy is the white light. It's an electrical source of energy. The reason that I know this is because I've experienced it. So, and as Albert Einstein said, right, when I perform also live shows, I say this during the live show. Einstein said, your experiences are your proof. And I'm not saying this specifically to you, Sinan. I can't transfer my proof to you. Too, I also, a lot of my videos are ghost story videos on the paranormal, because that's been what the followers have told me on social media they want from me. So that's the majority of my reels on social media. But it's so it's not, I don't pray to a specific, I pray to the energy that is God, if you're asking me. And as a trained scholar of religion, I've studied religions. I've read the Quran. Especially here in the United States after 9/11. I was a former university professor, Sinan, for over 20 years. I've taught business ethics. I've taught mythology. I like to learn. And I'll say this. Okay, you're Muslim, and we believe in paranormal as well. Yeah, and that's what, there was an Arabic newspaper in Washington, D.C., in English and Arabic, that she interviewed me about the paranormal for the Arabic community. But unfortunately, this administration cut the funding, and that article about haunted places in Washington, D.C. and paranormal never made it to press. I know we both thought it was a fantastic interview, because I can just talk and talk and talk. And one of the reasons that, my listeners have asked me to focus on the paranormal. And also, if we don't talk about it, how are we going to understand it? That's what, too, also as a classroom teacher, a professor, that's why I encourage dialogue, because through dialogue, we can have understanding. So if we're not talking about it, we're usually not understanding it. And the paranormal is very complex. And for me and how I work, I want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, and I'll say this, that you're Muslim. After 9/11 here in the United States, I read the Quran, because one of my students, he was Muslim, he's African American Muslim, he said to me one day in class, he said, well, jihad is justified in the Quran. When I read the Quran, and Sinan, maybe you have a different interpretation. I did not read anywhere in the Quran that justified jihad. And that's what also motivated me, because I think it's really rich when people finger point, or here we have Christian extremists, that their God is superior to other cultures' gods. Right, that's saying, from what I know in the Muslim, Allah is God. Yeah, you've completed the Quran in a language which you understand. Okay, and which language is that? I know one of my cousins, in Greece, she takes Arabic classes. Well, she did, when she was explaining to me how it goes right to left, the writing. In my opinion, having had to go to Greek school, during Danish. Okay, so you've read it in Danish. Okay, so here, a question. Do you think that jihad is written into the Quran and is justified, that jihad is there in the Quran and justified? Did your interpretation justify jihad? I mean, I'm just asking you as a question, because when that student, and this obviously is over 20 years ago when he said it, I said, I have to read the Quran now to make my own assessment. And when I read the Quran, now, this is 20 years ago, but what's interesting with the Quran is that there is a chapter on Jesus and there is a chapter on Mother Mary in the Quran. I read an Oxford edition of the Quran. Yes, this is 20 years ago, so this is not a recent read, but that's my relationship with God. I'm a seeker. I want to know. I don't want to, I try not to go on assumptions. I want to read it and then find out. And I did not find justification for jihad reading the Quran. And to say, because here in the United States, it wasn't really, because, when I trained as a scholar of religion, we weren't asked to read the Quran. Oh, okay. Is this, hi, Atlanta? Is it Maggie from Atlanta? Let me just find another piece of paper. I do like to write down where you're from. So this is, I have to say, Sinan, quite an interesting turn. I mean, I like how you threw me for a good surprise opening with this. And as a trained scholar, I am able to have this conversation with you. What we doing here, y'all? Well, Sinan from Denmark asked me if I believe in God, and then he asked which God. And then I was explaining to him, the God that I connect with, and then, which is an energy source. It's electrical. It's the white light. That is the source of God. And then he shared that he's Muslim. And then I shared with him that I've read the Quran and why I read the Quran, and that, in the Muslim culture, let me see, wait, sorry, I'm blanking here, the culture and the religion. Sorry, Muslim religion, right, that what we call in the Christian God, in the Muslim, Islam is the religion, Muslim, is the culture. Is that correct, Sinan? Just saying, it's jotting me, because when I taught at Rutgers University, I had some of my students were Muslim. So, they would always clarify that during lecture. And the conversation that Sinan and I are talking about was, and then I was saying in the Quran, right? So God is referred to as Allah. And interestingly, in the Quran, there is a chapter on Jesus. There is a chapter on Mary. As I'm a trained scholar in religion, I earned my PhD in philosophy and religion. So I studied religions during the PhD. We were not asked to read the Quran. I had read the Quran many years before, because after 9/11 here in the United States, you replied what I asked about jihad earlier. You said, well, I see that you said, I'm Muslim and we believe in paranormal as well. You've completed the whole Quran in a language that you understand. Okay, I don't see an answer to the jihad here. I mean, I scrolled back. So, I mean, also too, we can, I do have, my talking points. And now that I moved around the page where I had that, in which, okay, here, I just wanted to write down to Denmark, Atlanta. So we can wrap up that discussion, Sinan, to very intellectual question to start the live. Thank you for that, because that's a very deep question that you asked, and I appreciate your deepness and your interest and your curiosity. Myself, I respect different religions. That's my spiritual philosophy, how the ethics that I operate with. So, you know, if we're all praying for the good, who am I to judge? We don't know everything, too. So, you know, as myself, I'm a seeker. I like to learn. But yes, I have, you know, I explained to you, they are both Abrahamic religions. Let me see before I answer that. Here, let's see. I do have another device in front of me. So it's been 10 years since I graduated from the PhD. Allah mentions jihad in the Quran. Allah says that jihad means to serve Allah only in peaceful ways. Only in peaceful ways. But the TV and social medias have ruined the meaning of the word jihad. Okay, so in the US English we spell it with a J. I'm just saying. But the TV and social medias have ruined the meaning of the word to ruin Islam. That is so beautiful, Sinan, what you're explaining. That too. That's saying, you said that the what too, when we think of here in the States and 9/11 and the airplanes crashing into the buildings, these extremists have distorted jihad into something ugly, where in the Quran, it's something beautiful. So, I mean, thank you for that. That is really lovely. Let me just take some notes on that. Too. Yeah, that is, thank you for elevating the live tonight. Yeah, I think everyone who's listening, if you can, you know, I'll read it out loud again for everyone because there'll be the replay after. So in the Quran, Allah mentions jihad, and that jihad, according to Allah, means to serve only in peaceful ways. Only in peaceful ways. And Sinan's explaining TV and social media have ruined the meaning of the word, and because of that, it ruins the essence of Islam. Let me just a little, because you know what? After the replay, Sinan, this won't be available. What you said, this is just how YouTube works. TV and social media have ruined the word jihad. Ruined the word meaning. Let me just here. I'm taking some notes. Meaning of the word jihad to. Thank you. And I think also too, with what's going on right now, I think that's a really important message that you're sharing with all of us tonight. You know, I mean, I can only really speak for myself, and here on the East Coast of the United States, we were quite shocked at the recent developments in the Middle East. I will be closer to the Middle East by next month, and I am curious to see the difference in the news I receive. I won't be that far from the Middle East next month. You know, so I am interested to see what the news is and what I hear in Europe about everything that's going on with Iran. And we send, you know, prayers to the people. Yeah, okay, here in the United States, you're correct. People think that jihad means terrorism, but terrorism is illegal according to the words of Allah in the Quran. Yeah, that is so important. Yeah, because, you know, here in the United States, that's what we are constantly bombarded with. So that's saying this is so important that you're clarifying this. I'm just taking some more notes. People think that jihad means terrorism. Terrorism is illegal according to the words of Allah in the Quran. And I'll say this, Sinan, too, to circle back. That's what I was trying to convey to you, that when I read the Quran, I did not read any justification for violence, okay? And saying, like, here in the United States, the definition that you just stated, that it's defined as terrorism, which is inaccurate of how it is defined in the Quran. I did not find any justification for terrorism or violence in the Quran. So when that student said that to me, in the United States, that's the definition of jihad most of us learn. So, you're explaining to us what jihad is, and what we get taught here in the United States is not what jihad is. That is something else. It is the wrong word for what those extremists are participating in through violence and terrorism. So that is really important. And I appreciate this dialogue this evening. You have pleasantly surprised me, honestly, too, because this is a learning moment for myself. And I do enjoy learning. So I want to thank you for clarifying this. And I will keep the replay up afterwards, too, that it's so anyone can watch this after we are done this evening and listen and learn, too. So again, it's really excellent, the direction that you took us in. So fantastic. So usually that too in these lives, that's saying, so let's go a little, Sinan. What do you, in Islam, what have you learned about the paranormal? Let's steer the ship now. What have you learned about the paranormal? Because I know when I did that interview, I forget the name of the paper, but I know she was writing it in Arabic and English, the article. She asked me about haunted locations and activity, and I believe I talked about the White House and President Lincoln, and too, so I am curious to know in, the in your culture. Yeah, please tell me about it, because when I got interviewed for that article, I was hoping it was going to press and that I would have some feedback and response from, people that speak Arabic, because it's not really here in the United States, that I have access to. So I was bummed that one of the reasons I was bummed, because I wanted to get to know, let me just see, wait here before I say this. Yeah, I am bated breath waiting to read. Yeah, please tell me, because I want to hear in your culture and community. I'm just typing something. Okay, so I'm curious, in the Muslim community, the conversations about the paranormal, are people talking about experiences? Here in the United States, I would say, for example, myself as an American Greek, and I'll be in Greece next month. There is interest in Greece in the paranormal, but we have a lot more options here in the United States. It's not as abundant, the market in Greece. I think it's growing, But here, I mean, the month of October, you know, is the month for the paranormal because of Halloween. So the one thing is you gather your thoughts. So one of the points that I wanted to, and I have Allah mentioned in the Quran, the jinns were living before humans. Allah also mentioned that they are still living today, but they aren't visible because they are made of fire, which is energy. Very interesting. I've heard of the jinns, don't know much about the jinns, too. So, okay. So there's the jinns, yeah. Uh, interesting. Here in the United States and in Ireland is St. Patrick's Day. And one of the points tonight, I organize talking points. I can talk free flowing, but as a trained academic, I have to have talking points because it was required to, you know, have a structure, whether or not you adhere to the structure here, because, you know, it's more free flowing alive than a university lecture. You know, yeah, to an extent. You know, as long as it's on topic during lecture, you can free flow with what you're speaking in the classroom. So, Tuesday and in Ireland is St. Patrick's Day. And one of the symbols for St. Patrick's Day is the leprechaun. And what, you know, because the next live is going to be after St. Patrick's Day. Just as humans believe in magnetic fields, even though we can't see it, the jinns exist as energy according to the Quran. There are verses about this. Okay, very interesting. You know, I'm hoping down the road that that opens for me, you know, again with the Muslim community too, because I was hoping with that article going to press, I could find out in the community what, you know, Muslims think about the paranormal. How do they define it? Okay, you have here in the context of the Quran. So, yeah. Let me just, jinns, Quran, made of, I'm just taking some notes here. Invisible energy. Yeah, it's, I mean, it's very interesting too about the jinns. Here in the United States, and I'll finish the point because the next live is going to be after St. Patrick's Day. It'll be back to Wednesday next week on the 18th. So it'll be after St. Patrick's Day. So here with St. Patrick's Day, one popular symbol of St. Patrick's Day is the leprechaun. He's the red-haired guy with the hat and the pot of gold, you know, and that a leprechaun can bring you good luck or he can bring you bad luck. Myself, I have had positive experiences with leprechauns, and I have seen them, not often, from time to time, where applying to good fortune, too, with a restaurant bill, you know, one time, and another when I was lost, helping me find my way. Now, I'll give you an example. I had talked with a woman who, her family's from Ecuador in South America. And she told me a story how one day her father was walking home through the woods and this not nice leprechaun pushed him down to the ground and stomped all over him. And in Ecuador, they have had encounters with not nice leprechauns. So with St. Patrick's Day being Tuesday, you know, I've heard stories of not nice leprechauns, you know, here Tuesday. They do have importance to St. Patrick's Day. There's the parade, you know, all on the East Coast in different towns throughout the month. So when you talk about spirits, you know, that's why my nails are, you can't really because I have the screen, but you could say green, and then I did gold. I did that for St. Patrick's Day, a thematic for Tuesday. So because the color is green and gold, you know, for St. Patrick's Day. And so that is also in a dimension, leprechauns. And I had not a good St. Patrick's Day last year. I believe I was flying to Las Vegas, and I was a bit confused why St. Patrick's Day went awry. So I've seen leprechauns before. That's why I wanted to include that in tonight's live. Also, too, I don't know how much you've looked at my videos, Seenan. Well, I started talking about this in last week's live, but this month I have 2 paranormal investigations in Las Vegas, back to back, with Amy. It's going to be Amy and myself. We're going to be conducting investigations at 2 different hotel casinos. Too, and the plan is to go live here on YouTube for at least a half hour of the investigation. Now, I'll say this, Las Vegas is 3 hours behind us in New York. So you are 5 hours ahead of us. That will then be, that is March 23rd, March 24th. I'm also going to talk about it in the next live, because that'll be the last live before the investigations, because then that, you know, then it'll be back to back March 23rd, March 24th, too, that you get to see some of a paranormal investigation in real time. I did this last month on here for a half hour. You can check it out in the replay if you're interested. To, you know, the reason that I now have the investigations part of it live, because that was a request from social media. I did not come up with that idea. That came from the followers. They asked, and I listened, and I delivered. So I do plan to go live here for at least a half hour, but it is going to be, let's see. I got to think about this with the time zones. If probably here, it would be 9 p.m. Vegas time. So it's going to be late in Denmark. It's probably going to be around 5 a.m. the next day when I go live on here for the investigations. So it'll be Tuesday into Wednesday, 5 a.m., the 24th, and then the 25th, too. And usually on here, you get to be more interactive because my first live is very busy. So they don't get time. There's no chance of participating in the live. It's too active. There's a chance, we'll see as it unfolds, but you'll get to see a paranormal investigation in real time. That is for Denmark, the 24th of March, the 25th of March. In the United States, it's the 23rd of March. Then it starts getting early hours, 24th, 25th, like midnight here in New York time, probably when I will be live on here, too. We're going to be, you know, figuring it out as we go along, though I have been live for a paranormal investigation, so this won't be the first time, and it was a great success, and I enjoyed including all of you in the live. Also, next month in Greece, I will be conducting a paranormal investigation at a kids' park that's allegedly haunted, and that's in Athens, Greece. So I don't know what the date is for that. I probably will decide the date once I arrive in Greece. And I got to also see who's with me. I've asked one of my cousins, her 11-year-old son, to see maybe too that having a child we may even get more, more verifications. You should try playing Ayat al-Kursi from YouTube when entering a paranormal place. It's a verse about the power of Allah that scares the jinns away. So are the jinns interesting? Are the jinns considered evil, Sinan? Too? I've heard the word jinn, and to say when I taught mythology, it wasn't, in world mythology, the publishers did not include anything from the Middle East. They included Africa. There are good and evil jinns. Okay, interesting. Let me write this down. Play Ayat al-Kursi on YouTube, because I know when I listen to the replay, I have to write this down because the spelling. Scares jinns away. I can say this with the element of fire, Steenan. One time here in the United States, when I took a picture of an intentional, bonbon fire on the beach in the evening. I mean, it was, early evening, so it was still light out. Probably around like 7:30 p.m. because it was summer. When I took a picture and I looked at the picture the next day, I did see a face in the fire. And I didn't feel it was positive, if I'm going to be honest, but I wasn't really concerned because it's not somewhere really a beach location that I'm returning to. So yeah, okay, let me also write down that there are good and evil jinns. And in what countries have people had encounters with jinns? Do you know? In which countries have people talked about having experiences with jinns? And where and what are the stories? Too. As I think also too, to open the audience's mind, because I could say this here in the United States, I think very few people know about the jinns, if I'm going to be honest. Like I said, I've heard the word jinn before. It's not the first time hearing it. Though, that would be my question to you as well. So, I say this too. I do have videos that I filmed yesterday about ghost stories. I will be posting one tomorrow and the next day what I filmed yesterday. But if you have specific stories here in the United States, well, really here in New Jersey, I would be open to filming a video, because here in the United States, that's what the audience wants of the paranormal. They want to hear somebody's direct experience. They want the story. They want to hear what specifically good or bad happened. Did a jinn appear to them? Was it a dream? How was their contact with the jinns, since they're an invisible energy? So, yeah, that's what, okay. Yeah, I mean, you can, yeah, would I like to hear from an Islamic perspective how paranormal activity started on Earth? Sure. Yeah, I'm open to listening because as I said, this live for me took a surprising turn. I'm positively surprised. Yeah, I would like to hear from an Islamic perspective how paranormal activity started on Earth. So please type away. And I'll say this as Sinan's typing, just to let everyone know, the live next week is back to Wednesday, March 18th, 7:30 p.m., right? I'm not saying I'm not usually on Tuesday nights, but I do have an event, an in-person event at the time of the live. That's why the live is tonight. The next one will be Wednesday, March 18th. And if you do, listen to my videos or follow my channel, you see that I do have an announcement for the next live. And I'm just thinking before the humans exited, there was this jinn called Iblis. Iblis was a super good created by Allah, made from fire. Iblis was religious, that he prayed with angels made from light. Okay, very, very interesting. This also, and I'll say this, I appreciate your explanations. This is from the aspect of religion here in the United States. These videos, these stories that I film, which are not my stories. I am, my social media followers have said to me, they have appointed me their storyteller, and I'm honored to be their storyteller. I do love being a storyteller. As I said, I taught mythology at the universities. It was one of my methodologies in my dissertation. So, having taught at the University of Mythology, I am quite versed. I would read to them parts of the myths that we discussed and studied, for the course. So, yeah, it's interesting. This is also the context from religion. I'm just looking here. But the humans exited. So what happened? Did it's saying from this version, Sinan, does the human race wipe out and then return? Because you know what it is, because we're not talking on video. Me reading creates, can create some ambiguity in what is being explained. Okay, so Iblis is a jinn. I'm just... Okay, so this is an example of a good gem. Jinn, I meant Jen, not gem. I'm just writing down from the second to last message. Iblis was, and then I'll read your next. So religious that he prayed with angels made from the light. Okay, now I'm going to read your most recent response. Iblis was a good and religious jinn. So, okay, so, oh, it's just a, wait. Iblis was a good and religious jinn, yes. So religious that he prayed to Allah on such a level that he had prayed on every spot on earth. Iblis even prayed with angels. Okay, yeah, I mean it's very interesting. I appreciate your openness to share with us because as I said, I'm, anybody listening, I am going to make an assumption I think did not know any of this. So but then one day Allah created the first human called Adam who was made of clay. Okay, so this is after the jinns. Is that what you're saying? Sina and Adam is created after the jinns? And that's also to circle back to some of the points when we were talking earlier, that how I said the version of the Quran I read. Yes, the jinns exited in big numbers on earth before the humans exited. Yes, the jinn, okay, existed. Thank you. Because when I was reading that, I was like, then I was going to have another question for you. Okay, yes, the jinns existed in big numbers on Earth before the humans exited. Okay, yeah, interesting. Too. So, again, I'll say this in the context in the United States and Europe, we define paranormal when we go in the house and a door opens and closes on its own. We hear a knock on the wall, but nobody knocked on the wall. You hear people chatting in a bathroom, you hear voices, but there's nobody chatting there. So the definition of the paranormal here in the United States and Europe is different than how, from what I'm understanding from you, how the Muslim community defines paranormal. When Adam was created, Allah told Iblis and all the angels to bow down for Adam. Everyone bowed except Iblis because he felt that he was better than Adam. And then what happened to Iblis? Where did that go? Did he become a fallen angel? I mean, did he move away from God because he thought he was better than Adam? Oh, unfortunately, Iblis got cursed. How did he get cursed? So Iblis gets cursed, and how does he get cursed, and what's the outcome for Iblis getting cursed? Later on, Alec created a woman called Eva. We call her Eve. Okay, you call her Eve too. Okay. Allah told Adam and Eve to live in peace in paradise and whatever they wanted to do, except eating a specific apple from a tree. Yes, that I do know. But what happened to Iblis? What was the outcome for Iblis? Because I'll say this, we do need to wrap up the live too. I do need to wrap up in the next couple minutes. Then Iblis came and whispered to them to make them eat from this apple. Okay, so he's similar to the snake in the Christian telling of this. Okay, so I see from saying from the Christian Bible to the Quran, the variation in the details of the story. Okay, so it basically, Iblis, goes from positive to negative, right? They're trying to tempt them to eat from his apple. And then in this version, does Eve, this was the first sin made by the humans as a punishment. Allah sends Adam and Eve to earth. And who bites the apple, Sinan? Does Eve bite the apple or do both of them? Do Adam and Eve bite the apple? Oh, they both bite the apple. Very interesting, Sinan. Very, very interesting. They both bite the apple. Okay, that's interesting because in the Christian, it's Eve that bites the apple, not both of them. In the Bible, it's Eve bites the apple, not Adam. So it's okay that it's just, you know what? I have to finish. I have to wrap up the live tonight. So thank you for sharing this with all of us. I know I enjoyed it, but I do have to end the live. So and as a result of this first sin, they were sent to earth. They both get a human body and a life of struggle. Okay, because I do have to go. I have another live I have to do. And I gotta switch gears. So I really, really have to wrap this up because I have a live right after this that I need to get started. They all had to live for a limited of time and then end in hell or heaven. And where did they end? In hell or heaven? Yeah, because I'm already getting my notice for my next live. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And he promised to create chaos on earth. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Look, and also, and they will end in paradise. Okay, so he is the first Satan. That's what, when I was asking you before, that's what I was alluding to. Yeah, so he's, in the Christian, it's like Lucifer, then he rejects the light. And then Lucifer in the Christian is Satan. Yeah, and he ends being bad. It's okay. I thought Iblis was the Satan when you were explaining this. So yeah, now, but I do have to close out this live tonight. I will be back on Wednesday, March 18th. 7:30 p.m. And Sinan, also, I will have this on the replay. So anybody can watch this video. This does not disappear when I sign up. It probably won't be available until tomorrow because it has to download and then upload to my channel. But I will make this video available on my channel. So I'm going to say good night. Thank you for sharing this with all of us. I will be back on Wednesday, March 18th, 7:30 p.m. New York time to also talk about the investigations the following week that Amy and I are going live on. So everyone have a wonderful week. May beautiful things happen to you. And again, thank you, Sinan. I will see you all next week on the 18th.